If Shaytaan drags you into any kind of, if you get dragged into any kind of thing from Shaytaan, okay? If any kind of attack comes to you from Shaytaan, in other words, Allah said to the messenger, ignore the ignorant, ignore these jahil people, don't deal with them. But Shaytaan comes to them and doesn't let them walk away. They keep following you, they stick to you, they're not letting you go, they're dragging you into a conversation you shouldn't be into, and you might end up losing your temper. And if you lose your temper, then you know that Shaytaan got the best of you at that time. That's the time you should immediately remember, فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. Immediately ask Allah's protection of Allah from the Shaytaan. Because you should know, when in da'wah, when the conversation becomes heated, who's just one? Shaytaan has. Huge lesson in our deen. Huge lesson. You're trying to give advice to your uncle, he says the most retarded things and it boils your blood. He says the dumbest thing in the world. He's like, where did you get that from? That's not even right. Do you know that's kufr? You can't say that. Ugh. At that very moment, you know, Shaitan just dragged you into something you shouldn't have dragged into. فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Certainly he's the all-hearing, all-knowing. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا. Those who truly protect themselves, not just you, Prophet, not your followers too, those who protect themselves, the people of taqwa. إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. If a round of shaitan gets to them, a shade of shaitan, something from shaitan comes to them, some whisper, some influence, ta'if also means shadow, right? If something from the shaitan hits them a little bit, تَذَكَّرُوا, immediately they remind themselves. وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ. When the Qur'an is being recited, فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ, then listen to it carefully. Listening to it carefully requires your attention. But for the Muslim, there's an additional benefit here. When Qur'an is being recited, it's a tape playing, it's a CD, it's an MP3, it's in the background in the car, you guys are chatting, just either shut up or turn it off. Don't have Qur'an reciting for background music. فَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنْصِتُوا. Be quiet. It's a show of respect to the Qur'an. When salat is going on, jama'ah has started, it's on the microphone, Qur'an's being recited, and you're walking to the side, hey, how's it going, how you doing? No. Qur'an's being recited, man. Quiet. Don't say a word. Don't say a word. And of course the biggest training of that is when? Biggest training of Qur'an being recited and you be quiet. Salat itself. Salat itself, just listen carefully. What's happening in Salat is a training for what should happen outside Salat. Qur'an's being recited, you just be quiet and listen. فَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنْصِتُوا. I take it even a step further. When you are reading Qur'an, when you're reading Qur'an, don't have TV, you're watching TV and reading Qur'an at the same time. Just Qur'an, nothing else. When there's a halaqah going on and Qur'an's being explained, tafsir happening at the masjid, don't check your text messages and listen to, no, just listen, Qur'an. Drop everything. This is Qur'an. وَأَنْصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So that you may be shown mercy. In other words, if you know what's good for you, you will be quiet when you listen to Qur'an. And Qur'an, by the way, the Bani Israel, when Allah woke them up, what did He say? خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِي قُوَّةٍ. This is the Qur'an's version now of that. How do you hold on to Qur'an with quwwah? Whenever it's recited, listen to it carefully and remain silent. Just take in. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ. And mention your master inside of yourself. تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. Full of humility and powerlessness, and at the same time full of fear. دُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ. Without even saying a word out of your speech. Don't even open your mouth in remembering Allah. In other words, there's one way to remember Allah, to recite the Qur'an. فَلَا تَجْهَرْ بِصَلَاتِكَ وَلَا تُخَافِتْ بِهَا وَابْتَغِي بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا. Qur'an says that. But on the other hand, there's the real remembrance of Allah for which you don't even need to move your mouth. Remember Allah, mention Allah without even opening your tongue. Just quietly and humbly, without even making a loud, دُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ, without making a loud noise. So even if you make dhikr, make it a very low voice. Very low voice. Only you know and Allah knows this conversation is happening. بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. In the morning time and the multiple shades of evening. Asal is jama'. Ghudu is mufrad. Ghudu is singular, asal is plural. One of the benefits of that is there's only one morning salat. And there's multiple evening prayers. The beginning of asal is asr, then Maghrib, then Isha. So asal, the plural, implies for each shade of the evening, you have a prayer. But wudu is one morning prayer, which is what? Fajr, right? وَلَا تَكُنْ, and don't you become مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. How appropriate. Don't be from those who become heedless. The remedy against heedlessness is remembrance. And before Allah mentioned remembrance, He mentioned what's the best form of remembrance, which was Quran itself. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ عِنْدَ رَبِّ. So by the way, in these last two ayat, which problem has been addressed? In conclusion, ghafla. Which problem is still left? Okay, what is left? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ وَيُسَبِّحُونَ لَهُ. Those who before your master, those who are close to your master, they're in the company of your master, they don't show any arrogance in worshipping him. وَيُسَبِّحُونَهُ, they declare his perfection. وَلَهُ يَسْجُدُونَ, and they fall into sajda before him. Where the surah began, arrogance was tied to a lack of sajda with Iblis. And the surah ends, and they make sajda to him. They know not to make that mistake. وَلَهُ يَسْجُدُونَ. It's beautiful. It's such a cohesive argument about the two things that will destroy us: arrogance and heedlessness. So in my conclusion to this surah, I just want to remind myself and all of you of how dangerous these two diseases are, and how they can creep up into our lives. And how Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He's reminding us of these things, it's not just an ancient reminder, it's a living problem. What are the devices of arrogance, and what are the devices of heedlessness? The devices of arrogance today are self-image. That's the device of arrogance. You're so concerned with what you look like, what people think of you. You're concerned with your impression. Iblis has no problem doing sajda to Allah. He's done many before. It's in front of others. I have to do sajda to another creation. It's now comparison to somebody else. So when you're too conscious of others around you, two things happen. One, you're constantly comparing yourself to others, and you want to make sure somehow you're better. And two, when you're so concerned with others, you no longer become concerned with Allah Azza wa Jal. You forget that. You lose sight of that. These are the makings of kibr. Self-image. You're obsessed with yourself. Self-indulgence. The ghafla, the big problem of ghafla is basically everything that takes you away from remembering Allah Azza wa Jal. Now what are those things today? Not just in a general sense, today. It's 3G. It's 4G. It's Netflix. It's Hulu. It's YouTube. It's Facebook. It's TV shows. It's downloads. It's video games. It's one thing after another. The new movie that comes out. Then another movie comes out. Which ibadah do you and I do that 90 minutes gets our full attention? 90 minutes, we don't even think about anything else. People walk into a movie theater, 3-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie, 110-minute movie, 102-minute movie. They lose attention for even a second? Full concentration. Who leaves them alone? Shaytaan just left the building. You come into the masjid, you're trying to pray 2 rak'ahs. 2 rak'ahs. And you're praying the shortest surahs you know. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Allahu Akbar. Second rak'ah. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Allahu Akbar. And even in that, what happens? Oh my God, what's for lunch? What's for lunch? Who's this guy next to me? Did I make wudu? Where am I? Is it the weekend? Did I study for the exam? Oh my God. We are addicted to entertainment, and our addiction to entertainment is paving the way for our ghafla. Now, what are the consequences of that? The consequences of ghafla aren't just limited to you don't do dhikr.